Hi there, I'm Julie, and this is Stamp with Julie Baum. Thanks for finding me here on my channel. Today I am making project number 2 that we made in Stamp Club February 20 of 23. You'll find project number 1 in a different video. That was this card, so do look for that one. Project number 2, we are making this card, which I'm going to make for you now. And then there will be a third video that has the third and final project of our Stamp Club projects for this month. This is a fun card because depending on what colors you choose, you can just create the look that you're looking for. Let me show you what I mean. I also did one in these colors, kind of an ombre look, which I like a lot too. But at Club we used these colors, so that's the card that I'm going to make for you now. All right, so to begin with, I have a piece of Crumb Cake cardstock, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4, and I just used my bone folder to reinforce my fold. All right, then you need another piece of Crumb Cake cardstock. This piece is 1 1/4 inches by 5.5 inches. It is the same length across as your card. All right, then you'll have a piece of white cardstock that we'll do our stamping on, and it is 1 1/4 by 5 inches. So this is a little bit shorter. It's going to go on this piece, 1 1/4 by 5. Then our 4 main pieces that we're going to use, these beautiful colored pieces, measure 1 1/4 inches by 4 inches. So the first thing that I'm going to do is put our little bit of texture on these. Now, the embossing folder that I'm going to use, this was part of a 2-pack. It was dots and checks, and I believe it was in our holiday catalog, if I'm not mistaken. So it has retired, but you can certainly find a textured embossing folder that will give you just a different look, whatever you're in the mood for. But this one is dots. All right, and I'm going to bring in my mini machine. This is narrow enough that it will go through my mini. And when you're putting the texture onto your little strips of paper, you can actually do 2 at once. Now, the strips are a little bit too long to go this way, otherwise we could do all 4 of them. So we're going to have to go this way, but we can do 2 at a time. So I'm going to put these in here 2 at a time, as straight as I can without being overly fussy about it. And close the hinge. Like so. Whenever you're using your embossing folders, you want to make sure that the hinge end goes in first. So the sandwich that I need for this is simply a 1 plate, then my embossing folder with the cardstock inside, and a 3 plate. And I will be able to put my texture into these strips as easily as that. Okay, then we need to do that one more time with these other 2. Let's pop these out. And same process, laying these in here as straight as I can without being overly fussy about it. One thing I'll mention is you do want to keep the paper away from the very edge where the hinge is, because you'll end up with a tiny area, about 1/8 of an inch or so, with no decoration or no texture at all, and it ends up looking funny. So you do need to push your papers down a little bit, get them away from the hinge. Okay, so we're going to put those through. Repeat, plate 1, embossing folder with the cardstock inside, and followed by a plate 3. Those are the plates that we need in the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine to use with our embossing folder. All right, so now we've got all of our parts. I can take these items and get them out of the way. Come on. And we can move on to putting our card together. All right, since we've got those settled, let's go ahead and do our stamping next. So I'm going to bring in my white cardstock, And the first thing that I'm going to do, I didn't mention the stamp set. The stamp set I'm using is called Biggest Wish. I have enjoyed having this set. It has been we've had it for several seasons, so I hope it still sticks around a little bit longer. I'm starting with Parakeet Party ink and the word birthday. So the first thing that I'm going to do after I ink my stamp up is stamp once right in the center, so that at least one time on the strip you can see the whole word birthday, like so. Then tucking a scratch paper under the edge, because I'm going to stamp off the edge of my white cardstock, so this will catch the extra. This time it's only going to get the first couple letters of the word. And then we're going to reverse that and do just the last couple letters of the word birthday on this other end. I like this method. Ooh, there's a little glare. It's hard for me to see when I'm filming, but we're just going to take whatever we get. I like to use this method of starting in the middle because you for sure have one whole word. I'm not sure if I had started with birthday here and then birthday again. I probably would have got one birthday and a little bit of, birth again. I just like it this way. So you can choose how you do it. Now, on my sample that I showed you in the beginning, on this one, I stamped the green ink off first for a lighter look. Today, I'm going to use it darker. It's just a matter of preference. All right, then with polished pink and the happy stamp, this is actually going to get stamped right over my green words. And I'm going to come in right about here. And this polished pink is dark and intense enough that it will show up even over the green ink. Cute. Okay, so that stamped piece is done. We can set that aside. And let's start getting our colored embossed strips in place. Okay, so I've got my card base. The first thing I'm going to do is lay out my strips in the order that I want them. And this is also a good time to do a dry fit and just begin to determine the spacing that you're going to need when you put these babies down with glue so that you don't end up with some awkward space at the end or in the middle. All right, so you can see that was a pretty good dry fit. I need these spaces to be a little bit closer together when I actually add the glue. Otherwise, this end is just a little crowded. All right, so starting left to right, and again, you can use whatever adhesive you choose for this. I think that liquid glue is a good choice because I am able to slide it around a little bit if I don't get it right in the right position on the very first go around. So I'm looking at the top, the bottom, and the left side margin, and I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go with it. Moving on to Mango Melody. This time I'll be looking at the top, the bottom, the margin between my Parakeet Party and my Mango Melody. Okay, I think we're going to be okay as we move along. This one is Orchid Oasis. Sometimes I want to call it Starry Sky, but Starry Sky is the darker purple. Currently in colors. Okay, I'm looking at the bottom border of Crumb Cake, the top. See, I was able to slide it. And then also the gap between my Mango Melody and my Orchid Oasis. Okay, before I press that down good and hard, I'm just going to peek at it one more time, see if I'm happy. If I wasn't, I still had time to move this piece over, but I think we are in good shape. And now the last one, number 4, this is Polished Pink. Now I have my bottom border, my top border or margin, my right and my left, and I think I've done a pretty okay job getting those evenly spaced. Now the nice thing, if you don't feel like you got them spaced as evenly as you want to, is this is going to kind of become a distraction once it's on it. So don't beat yourself up over it if they're not quite as perfect as you had imagined. All right, so there we've got that. Okay, here's the steps that I'm going to show you before we put this onto here. The first thing I'm going to do is my twine treatment. I will mention this is the in color twine, and so it does come in the Parakeet Party and Orchid Oasis and Starry Sky, the current in colors. On my original card, I'm sure I used Starry Sky, and I have now run out of that. So I'm just going to show you that. No, this is this is Orchid Oasis. I've got it straight now. And I am now out of that. So Starry Sky is going to be used right now, but they're almost interchangeable. They are so, so close in color. So I'm using Starry Sky right now. Orchid Opulence also works. Okay. What I did at Stamp Club is I gave everybody 36 inches of twine, and then told them to, before they begin, take 6 inches of twine and cut it off. So I'm going to do that same thing. Okay, so that 6-inch piece is going to be used at the end to make a bow, or in just a minute, not at the end. And this piece I'm going to use for my twine wrapping. We're also saving a little bit of twine, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to start on the back of the cardstock, and all I'm going to do is tack it down with a little bit of tear and tape. So that's going to hold that in place like so. And then I'm going to do my wrapping, and I'm going to go across the front once, twice, 3 times. And then I am able to tack this down on the back. So we saved a little bit of twine instead of going all the way around 3 times and coming back around to the front. This saved a little bit. And once it's on the card, you'll never know. All right, so I've got my 3 times wrapped. We'll just secure that down like so. This is going to need a couple extra strips of tear and tape once we're ready to put it on the card. So since my tear and tape is out, I'm just going to go ahead and get this ready to go. All right, I think I will tear this straighter than I started. Let me grab my ruler. This just helps me so much. I can lay it down and pull. I should have done that on this end. Let's see if it's too late. I think I can still do it. There we go. Okay, and I need a little teeny piece there. I'm not too worried about it. It's not that I don't think it'll stay, but the teeny bit of OCD in me right now wants to put a piece of tape right here. Are you ever that way? Okay, now I'm happy with how my tape looks. Okay, so this piece is going to get attached to the card like so. This piece is going to go on top, and then we're going to add our bow. So instead of putting, I think I'll just do it in the same order I said. Let's remove our backings. Get this piece in place. And then we'll dig out some dimensionals for the next step. Now, it's your choice. You can just leave this there. It's not hurting anything. It's also not going to help too much. I have plenty of tear and tape on here. This one, same thing. You could just leave it if you want. You can tear off the backing, create another little sticking spot. It really doesn't matter. Those were more about holding the twine down. Okay, I'm going to bring in the whole card here. And I do want this to go nice and straight. I'm going down about 2/3. I don't want it in the middle. So I'm gonna sort of tack it in place and take a look. I am using the grid that I have on my work surface. It's also helping me just align it and see if it's somewhat straight. It helps because the edges, the length of this is the same as the edges of your card, so you can't go too crooked. I'm gonna spin it this way and eyeball it one more time this way. All right, I think we're in good shape. So I'm gonna give that a good solid press. Now that is anchored down. My twine is safe and sandwiched in between all those layers. And now we go to this one and some dimensionals. I'm going to use full-size dimensionals for this. And it is a long piece and I don't want it to like buckle in the middle. So I'm going to use quite a few dimensionals this time. Sometimes you can get by with 2 or 4, but I'm going to use 8 on this one. If you think that's overkill, that is totally fine. You can put less on. But again, it is a rather long strip and I don't want it to get all sunken looking. All right, there's our 8 dimensionals. Give them a good squeeze and get all those backings off. You can hear my little Yorkie, Cabby. She just woke up from her nap, and because I am talking with you, she thinks that she should talk to me. So luckily we are almost at the end of our card because I'm not sure that she's going to stop. Hi, Cabby. Okay, we've got our dimensionals peeled apart. We're gonna center this on here. Remember, it's gonna line up with this right edge, not with the left edge. And then I want it centered top and bottom. It's gonna go right over the twine. And I can just lay it down slowly and get my strip on there just where I want it. There we go. All right, again, a good press. You want those dimensionals to stay in place and to not be popping up. Then we'll take our little 6-inch piece that we trimmed from our twine in the beginning, and I'll just make a tiny bow. 6 inches for me is enough to work with, and I'm really not even using the entire 6 inches. I'm going to still trim some off, but it gives me enough length to work with. Get my loops the way I want them, have some tails. Okay, now I'm going to use a glue dot to attach this. So I'm going to take the center of my bow, right where that knotted part is, press it onto the glue dot, peel the whole thing off of the backing paper, and I'm going to put this on in this direction and stick it right on top of the other twine. It gives you the illusion that we wrapped the twine around, kept going, and tied a bow, but I'm telling you this was much easier kind of doing it this way instead of having all that twine on there and doing the bow and keeping it all right where you want it. So I did try it both ways and I recommend the way that I showed you today. All right, I'm going to trim my ends here like so. And we have our card. Now, I won't take the time right now, but you could certainly put a white panel on the inside if you want that white to be inside on the crumb cake base, or you can just leave it like this. But there is Project 2 from Stamp Club, February 2023. I'm so happy to share this with you. Thank you so much for watching. Do be sure and open the description box underneath this video where it says see more, and find all of the great information and some of the details that I have prepared for you there. If you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and you would like to order products, I do invite you to do that through me, and there will be a link to my online store in that description box. Thanks, and until next time, happy stamping!